A low guttural vibration filled the room, half growl, half resonance, then built to a scream that rattled the entire room.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Demogorgon.
Hey, buddy. Buddy, buddy. Buddy, buddy, buddy.
You think after how many years I've been a bartender, I'd learn how to pour, not a fucking gagger.
Yeah. Well, I feel like you know yourself well enough, right? It's about knowing your customer.
Exactly. Well, hello,
you know
everyone.
what you're expecting.
Welcome to part 2 of the Montauk Project. I know this is probably...
I am not a crook.
You've been aching at the bit just as much as those
I don't know
next
if that's
two
the phrase.
episodes. What? Aching?
Aching?
What is it?
It's itching?
All right, so you say how people are excited then if you want to correct me all the time. Go on.
No.
I'll be over here.
All you, dude. No. No, Jamie Quebec. I didn't mean it.
Okay. You're probably more excited to listen to our part 2 than you are for the next 2 episodes of Stranger Things. The good news is our episode's almost a week early. So
yep.
Here it comes. With that being said, I'm Jamie. That's Pete. We are not going to just pussyfoot around this like we usually do.
You know what it is.
We're going to get straight to the motherfucking point. So with that said, what are you drinking tonight, Pete? What do you got for us?
I got Woodford Rye.
Cool.
Always keeping it classy. You know how it is. And you know what? I'm still, that 4-pack is really lasting me a long time. But I took the last couple episodes off, right? Doctor cleared me. I'm back to action. I'm off IR.
The cirrhosis is gone. Perfect.
Yep. All gone. Literally took 5 days. 5 days. And I'm back off. The red practice jersey is gone. I'm back to full contact.
The miracles in modern medicine.
Jamie, what are you drinking?
So
I see a lovely green can.
So I have our wonderful garage beers from Jason Kelsey here in Philadelphia. Also Travis Kelsey, which I hate to lug him because he's also a super nice guy too, even though he's on the Chiefs that suck now. So no matter.
Yeah.
And I had a little bit of Castadores.
You can not hate him again because the Chiefs suck, and that's fine.
Broncos rule. And then also I made a cocktail for this episode.
Oh, you got some deer tequila though.
Oh yeah. I have Castadores, garage beer, and then I have special for this episode. I made a Black Manhattan.
It's the Manhattan.
So close enough. Yeah, Manhattan. That works. So a Black Manhattan. It's close to New York. It's close to Montauk. And it's what I had at the bar cart to make. So,
dude, good work.
What makes it black is you substitute sweet vermouth for Averna.
Yep.
So you're looking at bourbon, Averna, and then you do Angostura
couple Dashy
and
boys.
orange bitters.
Ooh, I like the orange touch.
Yeah, you put the little orange touch too. It kind of gives it that. Yeah, and it's fucking wonderful.
That's not a double. You said you were making a double.
I did. This is a double for sure.
What? That's a coupe. That's what they're served in.
Yeah, but like usually you do 2
I guess
ounces
a coupe's a little bigger,
ounce.
yeah.
Yeah. So I made
6 ounces of booze.
There's 6 ounces of booze in here. 2 ounces of Verna, 6 ounces of Wyoming rye whiskey. So yeah, I'm in for it. So here we go.
Good for you. I didn't know if you were going to have to get like the comically big martini glass for that. So,
well, let's get right to this, motherfucker.
Yeah, pitter patter, dude.
Let's get it at her.
All right. You ready? Here we go.
I'm ready.
Ladies and gentlemen,
background. Ready?
Part 2 of the Montauk Project. The technicians said the air inside the room felt wrong. Not colder, not warmer, just wrong. Like space itself was stretching, trying to hold onto its shape. One of
Do it,
them
Shane.
swore the shadows weren't lining up with the lights overhead. Another claimed the clock on the wall ticked backwards 3 times before continuing normally. A third described a pressure in his ears, afraid they would pop his fucking head. None of them knew what Duncan Cameron was seeing in his mind. None of them could feel what he was feeling, but every
No
one
one
of them
feels what I
believed the
feel.
same thing. Whatever was happening inside the Montauk chair, it wasn't just affecting Duncan anymore. It was affecting everyone and everything.
Whoa! So, in part 1, we followed Preston Nichols' scattered memories of abandoned hallways in the heart of the Phoenix Project and the creation of the motherfucking Montauk chair.
We left off at the moment that everything shifted, though, when Duncan Cameron's chair sessions stopped measuring just thoughts, but started affecting the world around him.
So, part 2 is what happens when Project Phoenix decides to push past that threshold.
This is the escalation, the risks, the breakdowns, the underground levels, the Montauk boys, we'll get to that, and the chain of events that believers say led to the infamous Montauk incident. So let's get back into it at the point of where things truly begin to unravel. Yeah, cue the Stranger Things song again.
The moment the chair began affecting the room, Project Phoenix made a choice. Stop. Escalate.
So Project Phoenix began increasing the frequency of Duncan's chair sessions. Leadership interpreted these early anomalies that we spoke about last time, some weird changes in temperature, some moods getting affected, weird things across the room kind of changing. They interpreted those anomalies as progress instead of something dangerous. The session durations became extended far beyond previous limits, pushing Duncan's own limits far past what they were before. And Duncan began showing signs of fatigue as well as like emotional volatility. These early successes created overconfidence.
So minor distortions in that room are logged as data instead of warning.
Preston notes, we should also mention all of this, just like we said with in the first episode, all of this is coming verbatim from Preston Nichols's The Montauk Project, Experiments in Time. So this isn't like, the book that he wrote about the Montauk Project and all the crazy shit that went on there.
Also,
all of this
what
was
the
coming
Duffer
firsthand
Boys
from,
the Duffer Boys read this and they're like, let's fucking write a script about it. So
we should make a big ass TV show about this and make it be the largest success in Netflix history.
Who wants to see a big ass stunt?
Who wants to see a big ass show? Preston notes that Phoenix starts to treat these instabilities as evidence that they're approaching a breakthrough. If they push just a little harder, maybe they can succeed in their attempt to influence things outside of just the chair room. Even with these increased stresses being placed on Duncan, the chair, and the scientists who were monitoring all of this, no additional safety protocols were ever implemented. Emotional output from Duncan starts to become unpredictable. Duncan involuntarily broadcasts his own emotional states.
At times, he would accidentally affect the mood of everyone in the room just by being a raging old dickhead, we assume.
Yeah, Preston Nichols recalls multiple times leaving the base feeling like he wanted to die, or on the flip side, like overly ecstatic, even though no events occurred at work that would have triggered him to feel that way. As well as that, electromagnetic readings began to spike even when Duncan wasn't performing active tasks in the chair. Nichols mentions this to allude to the fact that Duncan was kind of losing control of himself, and that these experiments were having unintended effects on the physical universe, our universe that we all were living in.
Several technicians began experiencing troubling psychological symptoms.
Yeah, Preston claims that there were reports of dizziness, nausea, ringing ears. A few claimed to feel like stretched or compressed suddenly. Weird physical symptoms.
So in Preston's book, he claims there were multiple instances of staff refusing to be near the chair. Don't go near. That fucking thing is haunted.
Exactly. As all this is happening, the equipment malfunctions start escalating. Metal electric coils that are pretty much meant to be powering the chair. It's how we transmit all the electromagnetic waves from Duncan through the chair. They were overheating even when he wasn't in the chair. Shielding panels, so like they describe like these big metal panels that were surrounding the chair room. They vibrated and hummed irregularly for no apparent reason.
So lights began to flicker and rhythmic pulses with Duncan's breathing, like, oh, oh, oh.
So so during these chair sessions, he records this first instance where minor time distortions began appearing.
Clocks drifted out of sync during sessions.
And technicians described again this feeling of time being stretched or compressed. There was actually a recorded log of a 3-second audio gap. So all of this was like highly, according to Preston, highly scientific. And they took records and recorded everything. It was all documented. And in one of these logs of the chair session, there's this just random 3-second gap with no explanation. Now, this was the same thing we kind of mentioned earlier in like the cold open, where there was like this ticking of this clock that went backwards 3 separate times. And that coincides with this. So we're thinking that this is all happening around the same time. Now, Preston sees all this crazy shit going on, and he raised these concerns that he's seeing to his superiors. But
he warns leadership about he warns leadership about the structural risk.
Yeah, he addresses the electromagnetic wave spikes occurring even without anyone in the chair.
He also brings up completely random vibrations that would shake and buzz the equipment.
Yeah, again, these metal panels that kind of surrounded the chair room were just like vibrating and buzzing all the time, and that's especially concerning when he's not in the chair. But again, Project Phoenix dismissed these fears as stress and overcaution in Preston's case.
So he's never in the chair.
Preston is everyone never in the chair.
So why is he being such a little bitch about this problem?
Well, because he's like trying to like say like, hey guys, like this is getting a little out of control, don't you think? And they're like, shut the fuck up.
This might hurt for you. He's like, well, I guess.
I guess, yeah. So yeah, quit being a bitch, pretty much is what they say. Fucking
yeah, exactly.
Suck it, nerd. So leadership insists that these anomalies prove that the project is nearing something groundbreaking, like we said before. Now, Phoenix commits itself to deeper experimentation.
Leadership authorized a new, highly intense protocol for Duncan.
Additional power was like routed into the chair. And these the session intensity was ramping up like it wasn't even like gradual. It was like immediately as soon as they saw that, going back to the last episode, when Duncan started moving things in the physical world, they weren't like, ooh, let's look into that more. They're like, hammer that, we're doing this more. And so they didn't ramp things up slowly. They were just like slow, crazy sessions. So now that Phoenix believed that they were on the verge of unlocking something extraordinary, Duncan wasn't just receiving anymore. He was starting to broadcast. And what he was sending out was beginning to change everything around him. At this point, Duncan isn't just responding to the chair anymore. He's starting to actually, for lack of a better word, drive it. Are you doing the Matthew McConaughey thing?
Mm-hmm.
So his remote viewing starts to go beyond the assignments that he's supposed to be doing. So remote viewing, pretty much, Duncan peering into different places around the world. He's able to access anywhere in the world from the chair, and he's able to pretty much receive what information he's able to see there. Pretty much he can spy wherever he wants to in the real world.
So Duncan begins describing locations no one asked him to look at.
And it's not necessarily his fault, because sometimes these visuals came to him unprompted. They were fragmented and shifting and unsettled. At this point, the visuals are mental projections that Duncan is somehow able to illustrate through the chair onto like a screen where the technicians and scientists and obviously government officials are all looking at. So pretty much they can see what he's seeing as he mentally projects himself wherever the fuck it is he's going. The electromagnetic fluctuations are also now, as we mentioned, syncing with Duncan's emotional states. Baseline electromagnetic readings rise or fall depending on how Duncan was feeling.
So irritation causes abrupt spikes. Calm produces smoother, coherent wave patterns.
And Preston notes that the chair seems to be following Duncan, not the other way around. So instead of Duncan being in the chair and receiving things, the chair kind of is being used by Duncan at this point. The technicians working in the base experience hallucination and time slips. Preston reports himself brief visual distortions. There's walls bending, outlines of things flickering, and like losing definition. So like he'd be looking at something and it'd get like weirdly fuzzy.
So chair technicians experience sudden bouts of deja vu during high intensity sessions.
Preston is implying that time became a little less cut and dry, simply moving forward, and that things may have been happening while Duncan was in the chair that were involving time travel at this point. Again, one technician reports losing several seconds. They refer to it in the book as a jump cut in real time. So, you know how like how we're watching a movie and it like, oh, we go from this jump cut into something crazy? Kind of that's like how the technicians were seeing things happening in real time.
You're saying like objects began moving suddenly during high output sessions?
Yeah.
Like clipboards would rattle on their hooks?
Yep.
Pens would roll across the desk with no physical cause? Sounds like ghosts to me.
There's a cat. There's a cat up there. It was just pushing it. Yeah.
Damn you, Penelope.
Preston recalls these vibrations that would move through the room during Duncan's emotional surges.
Kind of sounds like like a motorcycle, right?
Oh, dude, it's the Inception
like
sound.
Inception. Oh, okay. I've never seen the Inception.
What?
Never.
I don't even believe you. I feel like you're just trying to.
No, I haven't. It's too long.
Oh, you gotta go watch. What?
Really?
I guess that's fair.
It's like 4 hours.
It's not 4 hours. I don't even think it's 3 hours. I think it's like 2 hours and 20 minutes. Yeah.
God damn it. So it's probably really good then.
It could be one of the greatest movies ever made.
No, I think the Odyssey that he's going to make is about to be one of the best movies that's ever been written.
I also agree with that. How can you go with the cast that he has with the story of the Odyssey and him directing it and not have like the coolest thing you've ever seen in your life?
It's got to be
Again,
so
we're not going to overhype it. We're not going to overhype it. It's just going to be the greatest movie ever made.
Yeah. All right.
So, okay. We're going back from Inception. Where were we? So Preston recorded physical distortions in corridor spaces. Like these cold spots would form near the hallway right outside the control room where all the technicians would operate. He claims that there was a pressure shift that triggered door sensors to open, even though no one was near it.
Yeah, like scary. You mentioned, like, I don't like it. I don't like it.
Like ghosts, freaking spooky ghosts.
Freaking spooky ghosts for sure, dude.
Yeah. Lights would dim and brighten in sync with Duncan's breathing. Again, this is all because of what Preston says in his book. We don't have any other corroborating evidence of this. Drink up.
Said you weren't there?
I wasn't there, dude.
You don't have any proof?
Well, I don't technically know if I was or wasn't because my mind probably got erased.
Oh, yeah? Fair enough. Here comes the man in black.
Good callbacks. All right. So now at this point, leadership reframes Duncan as an asset rather than a subject. Their focus shifts from understanding Duncan to exploiting his output. This exploitation included increased pressure being placed on Preston to extract measurable results.
Safety protocols are ignored as leadership chases bigger breakthroughs.
So I guess this is something that we meant to discuss this. So if you are involved in this project and you're the government, do you think that you would push if you were on the verge of like uncovering telekinesis and mind control? Or would you be like, hey, let's take it easy. I know some things are getting weird, but like maybe we should do some checks and maybe we slow this thing down a little bit? Or would you be like, fucking hammer it? We're on the verge of something serious. Keep in mind, it's the Cold War and it's against the Russians.
I would obviously always hammer
Yeah, dude,
telekinesis to be,
hammer.
yeah, like, why would you not? Telekinesis.
So Preston, like
Telekinesis is sick.
routinely, I think Preston's kind of just like a little bitch. He
Yeah,
did
he's a
die,
nerd,
so
dude.
R.I.P.
He's a nerdy dude.
He is a nerd, and he's like, well, you guys, did you notice that there's a lot of pressure in the room when Duncan's in the chair? And they're like, dude, shut the fuck up. We're about to create mind control. Go fucking back to your clipboard.
Oh, see, that was rude, dude.
Maybe you can do it. You got the glasses.
I'm
Actually, okay. So, anyways, while all of this crazy shit is happening, Preston's memory work with his doctor triggers these odd recollections and images. And he gets these weird fragmented pictures that begin to surface in his mind. There's a Navy deck and a big ship. There's fog and weird static vibration, screaming sailors that are half visible in and out of phase. Now, these are like, he claims they're nightmares or they're dreams that he's having. But he also has this weird feeling, the sensation of falling or being dragged through an unseen field.
And not like a grassy meadow. We're talking electromagnetic fields that would rip you apart at an atomic level.
That's fair. So as he's doing these like memory recollections with his doctor, it's at this time that this super important character enters the story. His name is Al Beelick.
In his book, Preston recalls meeting a man claiming to be Duncan's brother, Al Beelick. All right.
Yeah. So this guy shows up and he's like, oh yeah, that's my brother, Duncan. And anyways, so
D-Dog,
far,
dude. That's my
that's my god, D, dude. Donkey. Friggin' drunky, dude. That's what we used to call
donkey.
it. So far in this story, we've talked about, kind of like skimmed or jumped around a bunch of different conspiracies and government covert actions like Project Artichoke and MK Ultra, but that was mostly last episode. And while these conspiracies are important to understanding the foundation behind Preston Nichols' Boogeyman Project Phoenix, Al Beelick's role would be to give credence to Preston Nichols' Montauk Project conspiracy by tying it to another wild government conspiracy called the Philadelphia Experiment.
So we talked before this about having a Philadelphia Experiment episode for a while. And one day we might get there, but just kind of fill everyone in like a little bit about what this is.
Here's the background on the Philadelphia Experiment. In 1943, the U.S. government is in the heart of World War II. And this is all real. I guess I'll let you know when we kind of, anyways, the real things that actually
all
happened.
Real, Peter.
Okay, that's fair. Okay. So German U-boats were trolling the American coastline in the Atlantic, shooting down any ships that were leaving U.S. harbors to support the war efforts in Europe. Now, in an effort to detect or to avoid detection from these U-boats, the U.S. Navy tried this cloaking system where they would use electromagnetic waves to pretty much bend light around a ship to make it invisible. There's a ton more science behind this experiment, but that is like the basic gist of what the Philadelphia experiment claims the government was trying to do. However, the experiment went completely haywire, and instead of cloaking the ship and making it invisible, the electromagnetic waves and all the other shit with Einstein's unified field theory actually teleported the ship through space to a harbor 1,000 miles away to Norfolk, Virginia. Jamie, you're in Philadelphia. How long would it take you to walk to Norfolk, Virginia?
Probably a long time because I have no
Okay.
idea where that is. But
I don't know where it is either. Anyways, it's 1,000 miles away. So
yeah.
the boat moves from the Philadelphia harbor to Norfolk, Virginia, where it appeared for several minutes before it returned back to the shipyard in Philadelphia. According to the Philadelphia experiment, the men aboard the ship were actually fused to the boat, and some even reportedly disappeared later in the evening after that experiment concluded. Fucking crazy shit. So,
Well, yeah,
and
for
why
sure.
these men were like fused to the harbor or fused to the ship. They claimed that it happened because when the boat teleported back from Norfolk, Virginia, it didn't go exactly back to the same spot because of the waves, like the actual waves in the water. And so guys that were like on the top deck were like 2 feet lower. So they were just like cut in half by a freaking giant, massive
Whoa.
US Navy boat. But, anyways, back to Al Beelick. Beelick describes the US Eldridge, which is the boat that's involved in the Philadelphia experiment. And he claimed that not only was he aboard the ship when it was teleported, but also that that ship made a jump through time. And in this time jump, he claims that he and his brother, Duncan, jumped from the USS Eldridge and were transported to the year 1983, landing inside the Montauk base during an active experiment. Now, Beelick describes falling through this tunnel of light with no sensation of water or impact, as if gravity had vanished beneath them. He also claimed that Montauk personnel were, in his words, expecting them, retrieving them from the distortion as part of a larger time loop design. After a short period of time at Montauk, Beelick says that he and Duncan, his brother, were actually sent back to 1943 to complete the Philadelphia loop. He insists that their memories were wiped afterwards and only returning decades later during these new age recovery sessions, the same kind of thing that Preston was doing.
So the sequence is the foundation of claims that Montauk is not a standalone program, but the direct continuation of the Philadelphia experiment.
Preston takes this and he believes that Duncan's identity aligns with the Cameron brothers' lore, and this is why Duncan is being used for the Montauk Project experiments. Something about him being from the future and the past makes him the I don't know, because he was involved in the Philadelphia experiment, he's the perfect guy to pretty much be doing all these experiments in the Montauk chair. Anyways, this 1943 and 1983 time loop concept begins to form, and Duncan and Beelick emerged decades later into the future, completely disoriented. Preston concludes that
Allegedly.
Project Phoenix, yeah, all of this is highly, highly in quotes, I would say. Yeah. Preston concludes that Project Phoenix inherited the consequences of the Philadelphia experiment. Their job was to somehow build up to what the Cameron brothers traveled through time to experience in the Montauk Project in 1983. This is really confusing and convoluted, but again, like we continuously keep going back to like, I don't know, the more and more I feel like you get into conspiracy theories and stuff like that, you start to realize time exists on a way different form than we really understand it. But their
Why
job at
does it
the
not happen to us though? That's what I'm mad about.
don't
We
I don't
hear
want
all
to be
these
stuck
things.
in a
It's not
time
a.
loop, dude.
I just want to travel through time once, and then I can
Okay.
come right back. That's it.
Well, okay. So pretty much Preston believes that Duncan's instability is reframed. So instead of him being overwhelmed and too taxed by the Montauk chair, these are temporal residue rather than a psychological weakness, meaning that it's his travel through time is like kind of wearing on him instead of a psychological, like he's fucking crashing psychologically. Phoenix sees Duncan now as a as more of a temporal asset than even before.
Leadership believes Duncan's time travel made him uniquely capable of deeper experiments.
They pretty much make up plans to use Duncan as this deliberate broadcast mechanism. Preston feels that the project has crossed into territory that it really has no control over. Now, at this point, Phoenix believed Duncan was a transmitter, but the next step was to find receivers. And according to Preston, they already had them, and they were hidden in the lower levels of the base at Montauk. Now, this is where the story takes a ridiculously dark turn. So far, we've played with like some really fun ideas about, oh, time travel and remote viewing and electromagnetism and kind of like some fringy science stuff. But according to Preston, Phoenix wasn't just building equipment anymore, it was building people.
Dun dun dun. So
Dun,
Preston eventually starts to remember a programming experiment that took place deep underground, away from the Montauk chair.
Yeah, as Preston continues to keep going through these therapy sessions, he recalls these lower level rooms, and there was like sterile halls, reinforced doors, and a strange coldness that felt deliberately engineered to be uncomfortable. These spaces were walled off from the chair labs, physically distant and operationally isolated. Now, his memories again returned to him only after revisiting the base with Duncan, as if proximity to the project reactivated something that was suppressed.
Preston claims the children were brought into a lower levels to be experimented on. These children would come to be known as the
The
Montauk Boys.
Montauk Boys. So Preston describes boys as young as 6 up to I think like 20, escorted silently by personnel who avoided eye contact. There were no names, no records, and no acknowledgement that these children ever existed. Their
Sounds kind of
faces,
oddly familiar, right?
yeah, right. We're thinking of I don't know, maybe they branded them on their arms or something with
Like on the
numbers.
wrist or something? Yeah.
Yeah, something like that. Preston claims that their faces linger in his memory. Confusion, fear, and the hollow exhaustion of kids already pushed too far.
Now, what was the purpose of gathering all these kids?
Well, according to Preston, the goal was to build psychic receivers. Phoenix believed that children were neurologically malleable, meaning they were ideal subjects for psychic development.
Like I said, sounds kind of a lot like Vecna.
Yeah. So I mean, in the most recent, like I think it was in the 4th episode, right, where he like pretty much says like, "Will, like you were just so weak, and that's why I chose you," kind of thing. Again,
Yeah.
Preston is saying the same thing.
Well, Will's going to
Duncan's,
give it to him now.
yeah, I'm not going to spoil anything, but that doesn't happen here.
No,
So
you just did.
Duncan's escalating output made Project Phoenix eager to pair him with minds that they could shape. And Preston understood the goal was to create a controlled network, Duncan broadcasting and the boys receiving.
AKA, they were building an army of children Duncan could control with his mind.
The boys were reportedly subject to extreme emotional conditioning. This is where the horror becomes pretty much undeniable. There were rooms engineered to break emotional defenses, blinding lights, disorienting tones, abrupt bursts of sound. Other rooms were designed specifically for fear. There was like echoing corridors, supreme oppressive silence, unpredictable noises. Technicians documented every reaction: panic, freeze responses, psychological breakdowns.
Preston insists that they weren't experiments, they were deliberate attempts to dismantle the children's inner world.
Yeah, the project apparently employed sensory deprivation rooms and tried to trigger psychological collapse for these children. Some were placed in total darkness rooms, removed from all orientation and sense of time.
They came out from these rooms trembling, disoriented, and they were barely responsive.
Preston recalls hearing cries through ventilation shafts cut off abruptly without any explanation.
Some children returned fragile and weakened, other returns changed completely.
Duncan's role was in the amplification of his emotions through these children's. His emotional surges synced with the boy's reaction, fear amplifying fear, calm producing eerie stillness. Electromagnetic readings spiked dramatically when Duncan's output was paired with the children's.
Some boys entered trances during Duncan's surges and would collapse after Duncan would break off his outpost.
Yep. And
What?
Preston, yeah, exactly. Just like, so Preston also describes an atmosphere of dread. Everyone sensed that they were crossing a line at the base. Yet again, no one intervened. Now, the consequences for these tortures, though, began to show. As Jamie mentioned, these boys started breaking down openly, screaming, disassociating, or falling silent mid-sentence.
Some were escorted away and never returned.
Yeah, staff maintained a culture of silence and an unspoken agreement to never ask where the children went. Preston regards being convinced that some subjects definitely didn't survive. Now, he begins to have breakdowns facilitated by the moral dilemma he was facing inside the Montauk base. His memories started returning in flashes, technicians working mechanically, children staring at him with empty eyes. He describes the guilt that hits like a physical sickness.
Slowly, he realizes he participated in something monstrous without understanding the full scope.
So while Preston initially claims that these experiments were to help train receivers for Duncan's transmission, he later reframes it in a simple way. The goal of the project was to weaponize trauma.
The Montauk boys weren't trainees, they were projects.
And Project
Products.
yeah. And Project Phoenix was creating programmable psychic operatives through trauma, not through talent, like in the case of Duncan. Now, Preston recounts that this is the darkest truth that he uncovered in his memories. The moment Montauk shifted from strange science into intentional cruelty. Preston, the Montauk boys, were the moment that lines should have been drawn. Children were no longer collateral, they were the experiment. And for that, Preston was at the point where faith and oversight had finally collapsed. So by this point, it was clear that Duncan wasn't just being pushed harder, he was being pushed past anything resembling a boundary. And Phoenix had no intention of slowing down. Now, while all this was happening, Duncan's condition continued to deteriorate.
Preston recalls that Duncan's sessions started to blur together with little recovery time in between them.
Yeah, Duncan slipped into deep trance states more quickly and often before full calibration was even complete. Preston notes that there was a growing emotional instability in Duncan. Sudden fear, agitation, and disorientation would seize Duncan without any provocation. Now, Preston realizes that any oversight from his superiors has completely failed.
Again, his requests to scale back sessions are dismissed without discussion.
Yeah, they pretty much just keep saying fucking buzz off, nerd.
Freaking do it, you little shit.
Doable, you little shit.
Little bitch,
So-
you better fucking do it.
Yeah, I'm gonna give you a wedgie. So
I'll freaking
yeah, they're
whoop
gonna
you, you
swirl
dork.
him, dude. So leadership reframes Duncan's deterioration as necessary stress. Preston begins to understand that there are no real safeguards left in place. Now, Duncan routinely shows signs of like slipping beyond control. He loses track of time entirely and is sometimes unable to recall how long he has even been in the chair. His speech becomes strange and fragmented in between sessions, sometimes unsure where or, more importantly, when he is.
Ooh.
Now, Preston senses that whatever Duncan is accessing is becoming harder and harder for him to return from.
All this led to Preston to have private conversations with Duncan outside official channels.
Away from technicians and supervisors, Preston speaks directly with Duncan. Duncan expresses his fear, not of the chair, but of what happens when he stops holding back. He believes Phoenix is pushing him towards something dangerous without understanding it.
Eventually, the pair comes to an understanding.
Preston and Duncan acknowledge that Project Phoenix will not stop voluntarily. Preston's brought up multiple times and they keep dismissing him. Conventional objections have failed. Oversight is completely meaningless. Duncan insists that if he is forced to continue, there must be a moment where he fully releases control. Preston claims that a trigger phrase was discussed between the men. According to Preston, they settle on a simple line, a signal, not a command. It is not written down, it is not sanctioned, and it's definitely not shared with Phoenix leadership. But when spoken, it means that Duncan will stop resisting the chair's full output. Preston explains in detail what the goal of the phrase was meant to be.
The goal of the phrase was never destruction, but consequence.
Preston believes that only a visible, undeniable event will force leadership to recognize the danger that they are putting themselves in. The phrase becomes a last resort warning. Crossing it means there is no going back. Now, in the book, Preston recalls a rising tension before the next session. Duncan begins to grow quiet and withdrawn. He's focused inward. Preston feels this mounting dread, aware of his own complicity in what has been going on with Project Montauk.
So neither man believes Phoenix understands what is about to happen.
And the pair knew that there was a line that was just waiting to be crossed, and it would take courage to cross it. But the phrase hangs unspoken as preparations continue.
Duncan enters the chair knowing the session will be different.
And Preston understands that once the phrase is said, control, real or imagined, will end. According to Preston, this phrase was never a Phoenix protocol. It was a private decision that the two men had made inside a runaway system. And in the next session, that decision would push the experiment way past the point of recovery. It was evident that Project Phoenix wanted one more breakthrough and one more push, but this time they pushed too far. See, I just keep wanting to do the X-Files.
I was about to do it too. They should remake that, dude. That'd be sick.
Fuck yeah, dude. That'd be sick.
It was such a good show. No, so preparation was made for most intense chair sessions attempted.
Yeah. Phoenix, for a number of reasons, scheduled an extended high output session, way longer and way more intense than any before. Now, Preston noted that there was a tension in the room. The technicians who knew what were going on, they avoided eye contact. The hum of the machinery already sounded strained before they even began. Duncan appears exhausted as well, even before he gets in the chair. Dark circles under his eyes. He expressed some difficulty breathing. And he also felt that something just wasn't right. My guess is that him and Preston went out to Hooters.
Oh, dude. That'll happen. I doubt it, though, because he's a giant nerd. He'd be like, what do I do at Hooters? Either that or he goes to Hooters all the time because he's a giant nerd. He's like, oh, yeah, let's go to Hooters again.
I just like the wings. I don't know.
Just the wings. So the chair fires up. And as we mentioned, the equipment already sounded strained.
Yeah, the coils are vibrating during warm-up, louder than usual, rattling nearby metal fixtures. Electromagnetic readings fluctuate unpredictably, drifting out of calibrated ranges in jagged bursts. Preston feels a vibration running through the floor, a subtle tremor that shouldn't exist when the machines are still set at idle. Now, early signals of distortion begin to appear as Duncan enters his trance. Lights pulse irregularly, and electromagnetic readings jitter off the scale. A technician notices the wall clock hesitate and then again correct itself.
Duncan begins to describe something approaching.
Yet, to himself, he murmurs about this presence moving towards him, toward the chair. Preston records like fragmented descriptions. There's pressure and heat, and then something standing just outside this frame of Duncan's viewing, right? The technicians exchange uneasy glances as Duncan's fear escalates, and the mood of the room follows suit. As we mentioned before, Duncan can affect the emotions of everyone.
Yes. The room starts to shift under stress.
As you mentioned, the room is like starting to shift under the stress, and there's this low frequency hum that builds until it can be felt in the chest more than it's even heard. Loose objects drift slightly across flat surfaces, not the cat, as the room itself is under tension. Now, it's at this point that equipment begins to fail, quietly at first. Panels flicker from green to yellow without any warning. The readouts that Duncan transmits to freeze for seconds before spiking violently. A cooling fan stalls, then overheats, and releases a sharp burning smell that cuts through the lab. Preston logs multiple red flags, but Phoenix orders the session to continue. This is when the time distortions start to intensify. Technicians report brief deja vu, hearing the same words repeated as if time was stuttering. This happens several times in a matter of minutes.
Duncan's emotional state fractures.
Yet his voice swings between calm and panic with no visible trigger. His description of the presence are closer now. It's almost pressing against him, trying to force its way through. Electromagnetic readings spike off the scale, surpassing every session on record.
The chair begins amplifying itself.
Yet Preston notes that he notices this output increasing without any corresponding input from Duncan. The chair is actually eating into its own feedback loop. Lights are strobing, coils are pulsing erratically. It becomes clear that the system is no longer responding to commands. It is now escalating all by itself.
Structural strain hits the lab.
Yeah, and a metal panel on the far wall warps, and with one crack, it snaps everyone's attention towards it.
At this point, the Project Phoenix loses control.
The operators frantically hit shutdown commands. Nothing responds. Technicians shout over one another as the chair's power draws spikes way past safe limits. Preston feels a surge of panic, followed by a grim clarity. Acting on the private understanding that he and Duncan had reached earlier, he leans in and quietly says the words that he claims mark the point of no return. The time is now.
Ooh.
At this, Duncan's body jolts. His vitals are spiking as if he has stopped holding back entirely. Preston claims that at this, the threshold is breached. A hole in reality was ripped wide open right in the middle of the room.
Duncan gasps in fear, describing something stepping through.
A violent electromagnetic surge rips through the lab. Lights blow, monitors dissolve into static, sparks erupt from the ceiling. Now, Preston reports a sensation like the air being pulled inside out, a pressure that feels alive. So Project Phoenix wanted a breakthrough, but what they got was an opening and something came through it. And according to Preston, what stepped into that room was nothing that the project had ever prepared for. It is at this critical point that the electromagnetic surge hits full force. A blinding flash of light fills the room, followed by a deep concussive vibration. Bah! So technicians stagger around, gripping equipment racks just to stay upright. Several monitors go dark simultaneously, then flare back to light and static and distortion. Duncan's thought form begins to manifest. Preston describes this shape forming in a haze near the Montauk chair. at first barely visible. The outline flickers in and out like a figure trying to anchor itself in the room. But Duncan mutters fractured phrases, as if narrating something he's seeing, but only in his mind.
And then the creature forms.
So in his book, Preston claims that this shape solidifies into a massive, hairless creature with the body of a man, but it had a bird-like shaped head. According to Preston, it was almost
Sweet
10
D, baby.
feet tall. Yeah, it's D. He's a bird. No, dude, it moved with like jerky, unnatural motions, kind of struggling to hold itself together. Its unnatural figure didn't really even seem to understand itself. A low guttural vibration filled the room, half growl, half resonance, then built to a scream that rattled the entire room.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have the Demogorgon.
Pretty much. It's like the Duffer Brothers. Yeah, we have this hairless creature that, I mean, the bird head is how Preston claims, but I could see
It's a
them like
flower
making
head.
it. Well, that's when
It's a
he's
flower
open,
head.
but when it's closed, it's like
Yeah.
kind of has like a beak sort of thing. So,
All right. So you think the Montauk monster is what they got? Yeah, makes sense.
so
You might be
at
on
this,
something.
the technicians flee in panic. Several technicians scream and bolt for the door. Others stumble over chairs and cables in their escape to rush. The door frame warps as the creature moves closer, metal bending under invisible pressure.
The lab begins to break down.
Metal cabinets are buckling inward like tin. A lighting rig crashes to the floor, sending sparks skidding across the room. Preston feels a wave of heat roll through the space, followed by an icy chill and a weird emptiness.
The creature responds to Duncan's emotions.
When Duncan panics or feels afraid, the creature thrashes around violently. When he calms for a moment, though, the creature trembles but becomes still. Preston realizes that the entity is not independent. It's a magnification of Duncan's fear.
Equipment overloads becomes catastrophic.
Yeah, so the chair begins emitting this piercing metallic scream as the metal coils we've been talking about snap and the wiring bursts open. The consoles explode in sparks. Thick smoke billows across the room. Blue arcs dance across the ceiling as breakers fail in repeated succession.
Preston attempts to kill the power, but nothing changes.
In his own words, Preston claims that with the room collapsing, he sprints to the master control panel. He slams the shutdown switch, but the chair keeps running, drawing power from nowhere or from somewhere unseen. Now, consoles stay lit even as breakers trip and systems fail, independently of the grid. Preston realizes that the chair is feeding on its own psychic feedback loop. Duncan's mind completes the circuit.
Preston cuts the power manually, violently.
Through the smoke, he grabs, for whatever reason, this is all according to Preston, he grabs a blowtorch from an emergency kit on the wall. I don't know why there's a blowtorch with the emergency kit, but there is. So, fighting heat and static pressure, he forces himself towards the live conduits that are feeding the chair. Now, sparks lash out violently as he cuts through the thick power lines leading from the control room to the Montauk chair. The instant the final line severs, the creature recoils, sucked backwards into a collapsing vortex, shrinking, folding, and vanishing into nothing. The lights cut out, there's total darkness. The vibrations stopped abruptly, as if the air itself had gone still.
And the lab falls into stunned silence.
At this point, the emergency lights flicker on, bathing the chair room in a dim red. Duncan hangs limp in the chair, unconscious and unmoving. Technicians stand around, frozen. They're unsure whether this nightmare is truly over. But Preston has realization. He records that what he witnessed wasn't a hallucination. It was something that was pulled from Duncan's mind and made real, an externalization of his internal fear. and nothing about the project can continue after that moment. The damage was so absolute that it only made sense to abandon the project then and there. Plus, nobody felt like going face to face with this beast of Duncan's again, so the experiment was over, but the fallout was only beginning. What happened next would unravel Phoenix, the base, and every secret Montauk had tried to bury. So, when the creature vanished, the nightmare didn't end. It left a vacuum, and everyone at Montauk knew what had to happen next.
There was an immediate evacuation order.
So technicians are scrambling through the smoke-filled hallways. They're grabbing whatever they can carry. Leadership issues clipped urgent commands, pushing everyone towards the exit.
The base devolves into chaos.
The personnel are
better,
shoving past
motherfucker?
one another. Yeah, dude, you did great. Personnel are shoving past one another in tight corridors. Some flee in stunned silence. Others shout warnings about structural failures. Duncan remains unconscious in the chair, however, left behind in the frantic evacuation.
Destruction of evidence begins immediately.
Hard drives are ripped from machines and they're smashed against the floor. Paper records are crammed into burn bins, flames crackling under emergency lighting. Preston watches files tossed into acid baths in the chemical lab, dissolving instantly. Project Phoenix leadership enforces one thing: compartmentalization.
Staff are ordered to speak to no one, not even each other.
Yeah, there's no written reports, no incident logs, no cross-department briefings, which is a huge departure from what Preston claimed was a highly documented, super responsible way of going about this. Anyone who hesitates these commands, though, is met with the same thing: get out now.
The underground was just sealed.
As we mentioned, these heavy bulkhead doors are being slammed shut across the access points. Keypads are being destroyed, wall panels are ripped open, cables are torn free from the walls. The lower levels where the Montauk Boys program allegedly took place are abandoned without inventory and acknowledgement.
Equipment removal is frantic and selective.
For whatever reason, certain machines are hauled out by armed teams with no explanation. Some are left sparking on the floor, too damaged to recover. Preston notices specific components, especially chair-adjacent modules, are loaded into unmarked trucks. Preston's fragmented memories intensify during the evacuation. He recalls sprinting down red-lit corridors, smoke swirling around his legs. Voices echo past him, some crying, some shouting, others eerily calm. The entire base feels like it's folding under the weight of what just happened. And Preston notices the staff moving strangely. They're dazed, they're repeating questions, forgetting where they were or where they came from. He sees a technician standing still in a hallway, eyes unfocused, whispering, "What was I doing?" over and over.
And it was at this point Preston understood the memory suppression protocols had been activated.
So Preston claims Project Phoenix initiated a rapid memory wipe procedure using electromagnetic bursts. Personnel stumble as these pulses hit. Some clutch their heads, others blink in confusion. Conversations break mid-sentence. People forget what they were carrying or where they were going. Preston feels this sharp pressure in his skull, followed by a wave of disorientation, but he forces himself to keep moving. He becomes convinced that leadership wanted the incident erased, not only physically, but mentally. And as he escapes the building, he passes more staff just wandering aimlessly, their memories already slipping away.
The base is abandoned under the cover of darkness.
Vehicles are like speeding out of there without headlights, engines muffled. Personnel stumble into trooper transports, still dazed, some asking where they were supposed to go. Preston leaves with a hollow sense of dread. His memories are slipping at the edges, details blurring, even as he's trying desperately to hold on to them.
Local witnesses report strange activity.
As we mentioned in the first episode, residents near Camp Hero, or Montauk Air Force Station, describe convoys leaving before the sunrise. Others claim to hear metallic bangs and clanging in the distance, long into the night. A few report smoke rising above the base, though nothing appears in the local news.
But Preston returned to an empty base.
As we talked about in part 1, weeks later, he visits the site alone. Following fragmented instincts more than clear recollection. That and an antenna that directs him there, tracking electromagnetic wave frequencies. The base sits silent. Doors are torn from their hinges, scorch marks streaking the concrete. Equipment ripped out or destroyed. Strange leftover devices lie scattered across the floorboards, abandoned prototypes. Being back inside triggers flashes, brief, blinding bursts of memory, images snapping into place before dissolving again. And during his visit, only weeks after the base went down, he meets a homeless man wandering amongst the wreckage.
Yes, we are back to the beginning of this story.
Yeah, the man's description of strange machinery and eerie sensations suddenly feel like echoes of Preston's own experience. Preston realizes that he wasn't the only one to stumble into the residue of what Montauk tried to bury.
This moment is catalyst for the story that Preston tells.
With the project erased and the base deserted, this is when Preston begins reconstructing his memories. He writes down everything he can recover: fragments, impressions, flashes triggered by physical locations, as well as objects. His recollection is shaky, nonlinear, and riddled with gaps, shaped as much by intuition as his own memory. These notes evolve into the book, The Montauk Project: Experiments in Time, the account that will ignite decades of speculation. That, dear listeners, is the story of the Montauk Project, one of the wildest conspiracy stories ever told. It has a bit of everything, right? Cover-ups, super beings, time travel, fringe science, interdimensional monsters, and of course, the government doing super fucked up things, especially to kids. It's such a wild story that it's no wonder Stranger Things keeps going back to it for ideas. But the legend was only the beginning, and decades later, we're still left with one unavoidable question. What exactly was the Montauk Project, and how much of Preston's story is truth, and how much is total bullshit? At this point in the episode, we're going to discuss the truth of Preston's claims being made in his book. While there's no question the story is fantastic, how much of it is really true is certainly up for debate. So, Jamie, I don't know if we caught this at the end, but pretty much Preston reveals at the end of his book that he returns. We talked about in part one where he has been doing all these studies and has been working with Duncan and stuff like that. When he puts the antenna on his car and is driving around and finds the Montauk base, that's only like a couple weeks after this Montauk incident where the creature comes through and they abandon the entire base.
Oh, really?
Which I thought was yeah. So that's how kind of his book ends, is that it's like, yep, this was, he runs into the homeless guy, and it's literally, he returns to the base only a few weeks after. And so this doesn't take place over a long, long period. Now, granted, he doesn't write this book or publish this book until the 90s, and this is taking place in 1983. But it takes him, let's call it 7 years to pretty much put the entire story back together again in his own mind. So I just thought that was really interesting.
So I thought the Montauk monster became evident in the 2000s.
So the Montauk monster and the Montauk incident, I think I understand this correctly, are separate things.
I know, but you said you talked about the Demogorgon.
Yeah.
But it looks exactly like the Montauk monster that you're talking about. But I thought was 2016. So you're saying there's more than one that came out of that space, and then
potentially
yeah. Okay.
What I understand is that the Montauk monster was this thing that washed up on the shores of Montauk, and
yes.
You're right, somewhere in the 2000s.
No, that was long. It was in Long Island. So it washed up on Long Island, and they're like, it has to be for Montauk.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, because Montauk.
But that event is separate from this incident, although they claim that it is some form of it, because the Montauk monster isn't so big as what Preston claims in this book. He claims it's this massive, 10-foot tall, huge creature, whereas the actual Montauk monster is the size of a dog.
Yes.
The Demodogs.
Right. The Demodog. Damn dogs.
Damn dogs.
Damn dogs.
So, all right. getting back to like let's just like assess this story. So there's a
Assess the
huge
situation.
situation. There's a huge problem with Preston's memories. So his account, he says this is fragmented and dreamlike. It's openly contradictory. Even within sections of his book, he'll go from saying one thing to something completely different that is obviously contradictory to each other. So it's really hard to imagine him that this is anything close to, let's call it, accurate, right? He doesn't even believe that it's accurate. He doesn't exactly know. He can't trust his own memories because he doesn't believe that any of this, he's not even sure if any of this really happened. It's really hard to take this book at face value, just knowing that alone, that he doesn't even necessarily know if these memories were real or not.
Like I always say, I want to believe. And I kind of
That's,
still do believe.
yeah.
Like it wouldn't have made this much like fuss if it didn't. There's like
Well,
like going back down to the war, like World War II, there
yep.
were villagers that talked about this, like, oh yeah, we hear those They're like, oh yeah, like everyone hears and talks about it. So
Yeah.
there's obviously something going on there.
Well, and I think that at least from a general standpoint, like conspiracy theories don't come out of nowhere, right? There's some kernel that is true, and then you develop the story around it, right? So, do we think that Preston's story is verbatim? Probably not.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
like you said, I want to believe we have evidence of MK Ultra and Project Artichoke, like these weird, fucked up things that the government did, right? We know that they existed. They've admitted to it now. Is it a stretch to say that the government did some weird shit during the Cold War that could have fucked things up? No, not at all. Now, did they explore time travel and mind control? They probably did, but I don't know how close they got. So I don't know.
I might die for saying this, but
Uh-oh.
at some
Don't say it.
point, at some point in our lives, we are going to find out that our government is actually the bad guy.
They are the bad guys for sure. Yeah, dude, you're gonna get canceled indefinitely for saying
Yeah,
shit
well,
like
like
that, though.
there's like right now everyone thinks it. Like I've always
Yeah.
been like an anarchist kid that's like fuck this, but there's gonna be a point in our lives where like the American government is the bad guy.
Yeah. I like that stand up. I don't know who it is that says it, but he's like, man, I don't get people that don't believe in conspiracy theories. Like they just dismiss all of them. Grand. As a rule, they just dismiss conspiracy theories. You think that the government's batting 1,000, like they're just always right and they always do the right thing? Like that'd be impossible. There's no
Exactly.
way. So yeah, is it fucked up? Do the government do weird fucking shit that obviously is not very morally righteous all the time?
So case in point, Condoleezza Rice.
Tell me. Buying the Broncos.
She's the Secretary of Defense once, and she has a nice, honest salary of maybe $200,000. Correct?
Yeah.
Is part owner of the Denver Broncos, which it was $12 billion to purchase.
Yeah. How'd she get? I mean, like, maybe she's just that fiscally responsible. She doesn't like to buy things. You should learn a lesson or two from her, dude. All right. So yeah. So we have, anyways, getting back to this whole thing. Do we believe Preston's story? Do we believe his memories? I guess I should say.
Like I say, I want to believe. I will always want to believe, but
On a
who knows?
scale from 1 to 10, what are you rating the stories that Preston recalls?
I'm gonna say a 6.
Okay. 6? All right, I'm not gonna go nearly that high. I'm gonna say 3.
Why?
I think that the government probably tried to do some, like, weird mind control stuff. We have MK Ultra, we have Project Artichoke, some of these other weird projects that they got involved with, that tried to explore controlling minds and things like that. But I don't think that they were kidnapping boys. I don't think that they actually had someone that could do it. I don't think that they were traveling through time. I don't think that Duncan Cameron existed as a person, or at least like in the way that Preston claims he did. I'm a bit more skeptical on this.
Well, so you think about UAPs, where we're like
Yep.
on a UFOs, like, oh, there's no way, and then the government's like, yeah, that's
they're
a
real.
thing. Yeah, they're real. Next question. Let me push you on. They're like, all right, well, everyone knows way too much to not know that these are things. So yes, it's true.
But, okay, so I guess I would have to say that if they were doing this and doing it well, like if they legitimately had someone that could travel through time,
doing it well,
that could
doing it
mentally
well.
project, that
Yeah.
that could remote view, I think that the government would actually have a better track record than they currently do.
They have a great track for
I don't
sure.
think they do. I mean,
No,
they
they
know
have
how
a
to frame
terrible
it, but
track
I
record.
think
I'm joking with you.
I think that they would have a better track record if they were able to do this in the 80s. They definitely have figured out how to time travel. If they figured this out in the 80s, by now they would have known how to time travel. So you think that the government is able to time travel right now?
Probably.
Oh man, you're crazy.
Do you not?
I'm gonna say no. That's why I'm calling no on this. I'm putting it at a 3. I think they tried all this shit, but I don't think any of it successfully happened.
Where do you think all this like situation comes from? There's someone there.
A crazy person.
Yeah. There's also
All right, so we're gonna disagree here. You're gonna call it a 6. I'm gonna call it a 3.
Let's get out of here.
All right.
Let's leave this. Let's go.
Where are we going? Are we moving on to another thing?
We're out of here. We're out of here, dude. Let's end this. We're done.
All right. Sweet.
Do you have more?
Oh, I was just gonna say, like, why? Yeah, I mean, we've kind of hit on all of it, like why this story, like, sticks around. It's because there's these like small kernels of possibility and truth in all of these weird claims. Some of them more outrageous than others, I will say, but there's a reason why this isn't something that has never ever been talked about again, and why it continues to be brought up. It's why an entire series was made about it. Stranger Things. You can thank Preston Nichols. I'd like to see it. I'd like to see a little thank you. Maybe donate to a cause.
He's dead, dude.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Don't give him the money. Just do it to like the found the Preston Nichols Institute.
I don't know. They literally they hired
where they brand children with numbers 0 through 15 and try to make them special people.
So they hired their elementary school teacher to play their elementary school teacher in the last season.
No way.
Yeah. So literally, she played parts.
Not the science guy.
No, the girl, the lady.
Oh.
Yeah, they hired her, who was literally their teacher when they were growing up as kids.
I can't even believe this. Wow, you're right.
It's true. Yeah, which is
they
super
cast
cool.
Their high school drama teacher.
Yeah,
in season 5. That's pretty neat. Good for them.
I thought that was awesome.
Yeah. Well, Montauk, in my opinion, is not real in the literal sense as Preston described. It is real in what it symbolizes. It reflects Cold War anxiety, American paranoia, unresolved trauma, and a fascination with forbidden experimentation and the government doing weird fucked up shit. The boundary between myth and memory is thin, and Montauk thrives in that blurred space. So as you're sitting and watching the last few episodes of Stranger Things, don't forget to say, hey, thanks, Preston Nichols. I really appreciate the crazy story that you came up with that inspired this entire series. That is the most, it has to be the most popular television series ever.
You say that. Yeah, I assume so.
I mean, there's just the way that things are now. Everyone has Netflix and everyone's watching this. I don't know of another Netflix series that has the finale. They have to.
Netflix didn't allow anyone else to share passwords, so now all of us have Netflix. So yes, you're right.
Sweet. Well, I'm really what do you want to see for these final Stranger Things episodes? Anything that ties into the Montauk Project here?
Like we said, we want to see the big old boat.
I want to see a boat. I want to see a big ass boat in the middle of Hawkins.
I want to see a big old boat.
All right. Well, Jamie, with that, you stay weird.
Stay wicked.
And stay wasted.
Also, please If you enjoyed this, please like and subscribe. And then tell all your friends to like and subscribe. And then tell all their friends to tell their friends to like and subscribe. Thank you.
Boom.